The intergalactic peace summit's grand chamber gleamed with polished obsidian and floating holographic star maps. Ambassador Elara Voss of the Draken Empire stood like a statue carved from living steel, her crimson scales catching the light as she delivered her ultimatum. The humans of the Nebula Concord had pushed too far, she declared, expanding into territories the Draken considered sacred breeding grounds. Lyra sat among the human delegates, her navy blue skin a stark contrast to the beige and brown tones surrounding her. Her blonde hair, an unusual genetic quirk from her Virelian heritage, cascaded over her shoulders as she leaned forward, listening. At 23, she was the youngest diplomat ever appointed to the Concord, chosen precisely because her gas cloud homeworld had maintained neutrality for centuries. Your pitiful alliance will kneel before the Draken throne, Elara's voice boomed through translation devices. Or we shall reduce your colonies to cosmic dust. We grant you 3 rotations to withdraw from the Kessler Nebula, or face annihilation. The threat was so absurdly dramatic, so perfectly pompous, that Lyra felt the giggle building in her chest like pressure in a fusion reactor. She tried to suppress it. Truly she did. Her hand flew to her mouth, but it was too late. The laugh burst free, bright, clear, and utterly devastating in the sudden silence. The sound echoed through the chamber like shattering crystal. Elara's vertical pupils contracted to slits. Around the chamber, Draken warriors, each standing over 7 feet tall with battle-scarred scales, tensed as if physically struck. In Draken culture, laughter during discussions of war and honor was more than rudeness. It was a declaration that the speaker's might was ridiculous. Their threats worthy only of mockery. You laugh? Elara's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper that somehow carried further than her shouts. You dare mock the Draken Empire? Lyra's smile died. No, it was involuntary. I didn't mean silence. Elara's clawed hand slammed onto the podium, cracking the reinforced material. Emperor Kareth, I recommend immediate cessation of diplomatic protocols. This insult cannot stand. The holographic projection of Emperor Korath, a massive Draken with scales like black diamonds, materialized above the assembly. His eyes, ancient and cold, fixed on Lyra. The human girl has shown us their true opinion of Draken honor. Korath's rumble seemed to vibrate through the very structure of the space station. We withdraw from all treaties. Effective immediately, the Draken Empire declares total war against the Nebula Concord and all human territories. The chamber erupted in chaos. Human delegates scrambled to their feet, shouting protests and apologies. Draken warriors activated their plasma weapons, energy crackling in warning. Lyra sat frozen, her navy blue skin paling to almost gray, as she watched 1,000 years of careful peace shatter, because she couldn't hold back a giggle. 3 months after the summit, the Draken war fleet descended on the mining colony of Pershing's world like a crimson storm. Lyra watched from the bridge of the resistance frigate Defiant Hope as plasma cannons turned the sky orange. They're targeting the civilian sectors first, Captain Maria Rodriguez reported grimly, her scarred hands gripping the tactical display. Classic Draken intimidation. Break their spirit before you break their defenses. Lyra had changed since the summit. Gone were the diplomatic robes. Now she wore tactical armor, her blonde hair tied back in a practical braid. The Nebula Concord leadership had quickly learned that the young woman who'd accidentally started a war possessed a brilliant strategic mind and an intimate understanding of honor-based combat. Psychology. They expect us to engage directly, Lyra said, her voice steady despite the horror unfolding below. Draken commanders think in terms of glorious battle. We need to think like water flow around their strength, strike at their supply lines. With respect, Ambassador, Rodriguez said, we have 1,500 civilians down there. We can't just abandon. We're not abandoning anyone. Lyra's navy blue fingers danced across the holographic controls. We're buying them, time. Target those asteroid fields at coordinates 773. Railgun bombardment, full spread. The Defiant Hope shuddered as its weapon systems fired. Tungsten slugs, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, smashed into carefully selected asteroids. The resulting debris cloud spiraled toward the Draken fleet, not enough to damage their heavily shielded dreadnoughts, but enough to obscure sensors and create chaos. All civilian transports. This is your window. Lyra broadcast on emergency channels. Launch now, scatter formation, head for the Harlan system. We'll cover your escape. As refugee ships began lifting off, 3 Draken interceptors broke formation to pursue. Lyra's hands moved with practiced precision, coordinating the small human defense fleet with ruthless efficiency. Shadowrunner, break left and draw their fire. Crimson Tide, target the middle interceptor's starboard thruster. They always overcompensate to protect their weapon systems. Morning Star, wait for my mark. The battle unfolded in 3 dimensions. Human ships dancing through space with desperate agility while Draken vessels powered through with overwhelming force. The middle interceptor exploded spectacularly as Crimson Tide's missiles found their mark, but the Shadowrunner took a plasma lance through its engine core. Runners down! Rodriguez shouted. They're ejecting. Morning Star, retrieval pattern, Lyra commanded, her voice cracking slightly. Everyone else, form up on the transports. We've done what we can. 2 years into the war, Lyra stood in the war room of Firebase Meridian, studying casualty reports that made her stomach turn. 1,000 star systems burned. Billions displaced. Entire worlds rendered uninhabitable by Draken-scorched Earth tactics. Commander James Park, a grizzled veteran with cybernetic replacements for the arm and eye he'd lost at the Battle of Cygnus Station, approached with fresh intelligence. Our scouts confirm it, Park said quietly. The Draken are preparing a major offensive on the Terran core worlds. 3 battle groups, led by Ambassador Alara Voss herself. She's been promoted to War Marshal. Lyra's reflection stared back at her from the darkened viewport, navy blue skin marked now with scars, blonde hair streaked with premature silver from stress. She barely recognized the laughing diplomat she'd been. Alara, Lyra whispered. This is personal for her, isn't it? Intel suggests she blames herself for not preventing your insult at the summit, Park replied. In Draken culture, she lost honor that day. Every human she kills is a step toward redemption. Then we use that. Lyra turned from the window, her tactical mind already spinning strategies. Pride is their weakness. We let them think they're winning, let them overextend. Meanwhile, we hit their fuel depots in the Kessler Nebula, the very territory they started this war to protect. The plan was audacious and costly. Strike teams would have to penetrate deep into Draken-held space while the main fleet engaged Ilara's forces near Earth. Lyra would lead the sabotage mission personally. You don't have to do this, Park said. You're too valuable to risk on. I'm the only one who understands how they think, Lyra interrupted. And besides, this war started because of my laughter. Maybe it ends because of my actions. 3 weeks later, Lyra's stealth ship Silent Regret drifted through the Kessler Nebula's hydrogen clouds. Her strike Team 12 of the best infiltrators humanity could offer prepared for insertion. The Draken fuel depot was a massive orbital platform. Its reserves enough to power the war machine for another decade. Draken guards patrolled with plasma rifles, their scales gleaming under harsh lights. Remember, Lyra whispered into her cum, we're not here to fight. We're ghosts. In and out. But the universe had other plans. The infiltration went perfectly until it didn't. Lyra's team had planted charges on 7 of the Poseidon's 8 fuel reservoirs when a Draken patrol stumbled upon Corporal Davies, rigging the final explosive. The plasma rifle report echoed through the depot like a death knell. Contact. We're compromised. Lyra's voice cut through the team channel. Everyone to extraction point Beta now. The depot erupted into chaos. Alarms shrieked as Draken warriors poured from barracks, their scales rippling with battle-ready aggression. Lyra's team scattered, sprinting through industrial corridors as plasma bolts seared the air around them. Lyra rounded a corner and came face to face with a Draken warrior, his crimson scales marked with honor scars. Time seemed to slow. Her hand moved to her sidearm, but she knew she'd be too slow. The warrior's rifle was already rising. A massive explosion rocked the depot. One of the charges had detonated early, triggered by the plasma fire. The concussion threw both Lyra and the warrior to the deck. She recovered first, training overcoming shock. But instead of shooting the dazed Draken, Lyra grabbed his arm and hauled him up. Run! The whole depot's going to blow. The warrior stared at her with confusion and something else recognition, but survival instinct took over. They ran together through the shaking corridors as secondary explosions chained through the facility. Lyra's extraction shuttle was already lifting off, her team aboard. She sprinted across the landing platform, the Draken warrior somehow still beside her. At the shuttle's ramp, she turned. Go, she told him. Get your people out. The warrior's vertical pupils studied her intently. You saved my life. A human saved Draken life? We're all just people trying to survive a stupid war, Lyra shouted over the roar of flames and failing containment systems. Maybe some things are more important than honor. She dove into the shuttle, and it blasted away just as the depot's main reactor went critical. The explosion lit up the nebula like a newborn star, destroying the Draken fuel reserves and crippling their long-term strategic capability. But back on Firebase Meridian, Lyra couldn't celebrate. Her team had lost 3 members, including young Davies, who'd never seen her 20th birthday. 3 lives to save thousands, maybe millions, but the math didn't make the loss easier. Commander Park found her in the observation deck, staring at the stars. We've received a transmission, he said carefully, from War Marshal Elara Voss. She wants to meet, alone, neutral ground. Lyra's heart raced. It's a trap, probably. Park handed her a data slate, but her message included Draken honor codes. If she's invoked sacred parley, breaking it would dishonor her entire bloodline. They take that seriously. The abandoned trading station floated in neutral space, equidistant from Draken and human territories. Lyra's shuttle docked with her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd come alone, as requested, wearing her resistance uniform but carrying no weapons. War Marshal Elara Voss waited in the station's central chamber, her crimson scales dulled by years of war. The proud ambassador Lyra remembered had been replaced by something harder, sadder. The human who laughed, Elara said, her voice devoid of the bombast from the summit. The girl whose giggle destroyed galaxies. I never meant, Lyra began. I know. Elara's admission shocked Lyra to silence. I have spent these years believing you mocked us deliberately. But a warrior you saved at the Kessler Depot, he has returned to our lines with troubling questions. He says you risked yourself to preserve his life, that you spoke of survival beyond honor. Lyra's navy blue hands trembled. The war was never about my laugh, was it? It was waiting to happen. Emperor Korath had wanted expansion for decades, Elara admitted, each word seeming to cost her. Your laughter simply provided the excuse. I have slain thousands in the name of honor I knew was false. How does one carry such weight? The same way I carry the knowledge that I started this, Lyra said softly. By trying to end it. by making the suffering mean something. They stood in silence, two women who'd become symbols of a war neither wanted. Emperor Korath will never accept peace, Ilara finally said. His pride. Then we remove pride from the equation. Lyra met Ilara's eyes. You have access to Draken command networks. I have human resistance cells across the galaxy. Together, we expose the truth that this war was manufactured. Let both sides see how we've been manipulated. They will call us traitors. We will be executed. Probably, Lyra agreed. But maybe some things are more important than survival. Like giving our people a chance to stop the killing. Ilara's scaled hand extended slowly. Lyra took it, feeling the warmth beneath the armor-like skin. Two enemies, two women who'd been ground by war into something sharp and desperate, choosing a different path. 3 months later, the leaked communications proved the war's false pretenses. Both Korath and hardline human leaders faced internal rebellions. Ceasefire negotiations began tentatively. Years after, Lyra stood at a memorial wall holding billions of names, including War Marshal Ilara Voss, executed for treason before seeing the peace she'd enabled. Lyra's blonde hair was fully silver now, her navy blue skin lined with age and scars. A young human cadet approached nervously. Ambassador Lyra? Is it true you started the Galactic War by laughing? Lyra smiled sadly. No, child. I provided an excuse. The war started because people chose pride over peace, manipulation over truth. Remember that difference. It might save your generation from repeating our mistakes. She touched Ilara's name on the wall, a gesture of respect for the enemy who became an unlikely ally. One unguarded giggle hadn't doomed the galaxy, but two women's courage had helped save it. The end.